follow other guys in the car community that are shooting cars, and I do exactly nothing that they're doing. One time I left the keys on the ground, and then I ran over them.
It's about that time again.
What is up? If you're watching this, that means you got another day. I'm here with Cameron and Ryan of Ticket Dismissers. If you get a ticket in LA, well, after the quarantine, when you're allowed to like actually drive around, you're gonna wanna go to these guys. They're actually helping me with window tint issue, but we're shooting this beautiful 1991 318. And guys, we're gonna turn today into a photo tutorial for you because, well, LA is officially in a shelter in place as of literally right now. So that means that this might be one of my last shoots for a while. So it's good timing that I can actually tell you guys how to shoot, so when you actually are free to shoot, you know how to do it. Off to AutoZone to go get a new fuse because the M3 is bagged and not moving. And it's funny because this train parked right here and we need to shoot the skyline in between, and you can see with the BMW needs to be right there and like right here. Wide shots of the car and basically just kind of get my flow, get my settings right of what I want to do. By the way, if you don't have a polarizer for your camera, get one. It's essential to cut the glare on the car. Also pay attention to timing in the sun. So we put our time at 6 o'clock today because sunset was at 7. So it gives me 1 hour and some change to shoot this car, which I know is more than enough than what I need. I'm gonna do what we call detail shots. So that's shots of the wheels, shots of the bolts on the wide body kit. We're gonna get the lights, interior shots, just anything that just showcases what's special about this car. What I like to do also is I follow other guys in the car community that are shooting cars, and I do exactly nothing that they're doing. Because if you're gonna shoot a car and you're gonna stand out and you're gonna create art, don't copy someone else's style because they've already mastered it. You can't catch up. You'll always be one step behind unless you go your own path. When I'm coming up with angles for detail shots or for wide shots or anything like that, I try to come up with my own angles, and only my eye can catch those. A lot of people know that I really like the back end wheel shot for details, so kind of think of like a straight line right to the wheel, but make it at an angle instead of straight on. My settings right now are 1/200 shutter speed, f1.8, and ISO 125. I always make my ISO as low as possible, and I really like my aperture wide open. So 1.8 on this prime lens means that I got a blurry background. Sometimes you want in focus, but most of the time I like blurry. And it just pulls more attention in on the details of the car. So f1.8, and then my shutter speed all depends on how much light there is. Not enough light, shutter speed doesn't have to be that high. This is the 50mm prime lens. I'm shooting 50mm on this car. Anything higher is gonna bring the car in tighter, and anything wider, which we'll get to in a little bit, is gonna obviously bow the car out. When I'm doing some of these early detail shots, I want them as the eye sees them, so we shoot 50mm. 35mm is also safe. Find a variable polarizer, so one that you turn to adjust. Think of it like those polarized sunglasses. When you put them on, you know how certain surfaces like your cell phone you can't even see based on the angle that it's at? It's because it's getting rid of the glare. And I know you guys can't see it, but if I rotate it, front windshield here becomes very white and reflective, and if I keep turning it, it becomes jet black and you can't see through it, and that's what we want. The lights on this. So I want to catch kind of angles of the lights. When he's able to straighten out his wheels, we'll do a straight on shot. Wide shots are great for cars, but a lot of automotive photographers make the mistake of shooting everything wide because it captures all that's going on. That's great and all, but wide is garbage on Instagram. That's why I'm always shooting vertical, because it's statistically proven that vertical shots perform better on Instagram. Let's just assume in an alternate universe, if we were to sell this car, professional photos really help you sell it because we're doing exactly what the buyer wants to see, which is capturing all of the little details in it. We want to showcase the thing that the buyer is going to be excited about. Each car has its own little signature thing. You know, if you're shooting a Mustang, shoot the 5.0 badge. If you're shooting, you know, a Lamborghini, get the steering wheel because it's got the bull right there. These have really deep dish wheels, so when my car gets back, I'll grab the wide angle lens and we'll shoot up close of the deep dish wheel to just show how deep it really is. You want to capture tread on the wheels, so like, you know, maybe some shots where we're looking right down the edge of the car where this back wheel is in focus and you can see the details of the tire and the front end is blurry. If you're using leading lines to kind of point the eye just down the edge of the car, and the reflections look really nice. So aftermarket details on a car, things that you want to show off. We got the spoiler here. So another tip, if you ever are trusted with a car to go shoot it, I always shoot with the keys in my pocket. So never leave the car running. If you have to leave the headlights on and you have to leave the car running so the battery doesn't die, roll down a window just a little bit, because you'd be surprised at how many cars auto lock and then you're stuck outside the car. Don't ever let that happen to you. One time I left the keys on the ground and then I ran over them. Whoops. So we got some gauges here that are gonna look really nice. My aperture might need to open up just a little bit. The far gauges are in focus and the close-up ones aren't, or vice versa. So if you open up your aperture to like 2.8, then everything is in focus. And again, we're looking for weird angles, stuff that'll catch your eye when you're scrolling. We're not shooting for Motor Trend, we're shooting art. No offense to Motor Trend, we're shooting. It looks like he's redone, you know, the sides, the door panels. You know, if there was a potential buyer, or even just an enthusiast looking at this online, they're gonna wanna see those details. You can never shoot too much, because you can always go back and kind of weed through stuff. I know when I used to shoot for an exotic car dealership, I would come home with 50 to 100 photos per car, and that was shooting fast, and they only needed 3 to 4 photos edited. So for this shoot, I wanna come out with, you know, somewhere between 10 and 30 finished edits. So I might shoot anywhere from 500 to 600 photos. I'm also adjusting shutter and ISO on the fly, so our settings now are 1/200 shutter speed, 2.8 aperture, ISO 2500. It's because it's darker inside the car. Well, we can get the pedals to show that this is a manual transmission, if you didn't already know from the stick shift. And sometimes pedals have nice little accents to them that are, you know, special. Like a Maserati pedal has the Trident on it, so that's always fun to capture. If you're a BMW guy, you know what the gas pedal and the brake pedal look like in BMW. They're pretty much the same in all of them. And the more you shoot cars, you start to know what enthusiasts in those different groups look for. Like if you're a Mustang guy, I don't know, you're probably gonna wanna see the grille. You're gonna wanna see what spoiler it's got. If you're a BMW guy, like little things like the lights on the front are signature on a BMW. If you have a client that's coming to shoot with, I got lucky because the ticket dismisser showed up with a spotless car. But you'd be surprised with some people who show up, just like girls show up not camera ready, sometimes cars show up not detailed. You'll see a client literally show up with a spray bottle and a rag and be like, oh, let me touch this up real quick. That never works. You just smudge everything around, it never looks good. So make sure you tell them to have the car clean and ready by the time that they show up. Keep in mind who your client is. These guys are attorneys. They're pretty notorious for being prompt and on time with things, so I didn't have to worry. But if you're dealing with a, I don't know, self-employed entrepreneur, or I gave them the example of model, a lot of times they don't show up on time. So I usually will tell them, show up 30 minutes prior to the time that I actually need them. So if I wanted them here at 6, I'll tell them to get here at 5:30. So when they say, oh, I had to stop and get a coffee at Starbucks, I've already budgeted for it. Because my time is valuable, but the sunlight is what we're all really racing with. If you're gonna shoot golden hour, which is the best time to shoot cars, you don't really get extra. SED doesn't care if your client is late. A lot of my shoots come from me networking on Instagram or word of mouth. I've never run an ad. A lot of these are paid. It used to be mostly free, but now it's getting to the point where I pretty much don't shoot a car unless there's money involved. As your quality or your style starts to develop, which happens naturally over time through repetition, people will pay money for that style. So anyone can find a photographer if they just want a car to be shot, but if you want a specific style, that's where you're able to capitalize. Because, you know, I'll use Paid to Shoot for an example. One of my favorite automotive photographers. I don't know anyone who's shooting a car anywhere close to how he's shooting them. And that's why he gets paid. And if you're wondering how to get paid for car shoots and the paid shoots aren't coming through, either you're not in a city with enough cars to shoot, or your skill level just isn't up to par. I had to take a really hard look at my own skill set and say like, okay, are these photos actually bringing in clients? And if they're not, go back and hone in on your craft. So I've swapped to the wide angle lens now. This is a 17 to 28 Tamron lens. If you shoot Sony, this is way cheaper than the G Master, and I don't notice a quality difference. It's an $800 lens. It only goes to 2.8 though, so that means we gotta bump up the ISO to account for the fact that a higher aperture rating means less light allowed into the lens. Get up right behind it and get low to the ground, and it just like adds action because the ground is blurred in the foreground and it draws your eyes straight into the car. I'm also having him run the engine because some exhaust is coming out and it's glittering in the sun and it just looks cool. Things I'm paying attention to is that the sky is very blown out with the sun right now, and this foreground is dark. So basically you want to look at whatever's brightest that you want to prioritize and adjust your shutter and settings to accommodate that. Because if you make the car bright enough, the sky is going to be blown out and overexposed. Make the sky come in clear with detail, and the car is a little dark. Thanks to the full frame Sony camera, a lot of the shadows will be recovered. It's not nearly dark enough for you to not brighten up the car in post and not lose the detail in the sky, because if you blow out details in your image, you don't get that back. Bring Hot Wheels to car shoots. Bring a few of them if you shoot a few cars, so you can show people how to arrange cars. It's a whole lot easier than using your hand. Midnight Club Los Angeles, there's no traffic in that game, and you can drive all over LA. That's kind of what it's like. I'm in the sports car that I've always wanted, that I used to drive in Midnight Club, a blue Mustang, and I'm driving in LA with no traffic. If I get a ticket, you guys know who I'm calling. If I know what I'm gonna add in post, like glare or more clouds or lightning or whatever, I need to accommodate for that in the frame before I shoot the photo. If the sky was clear and I knew I was gonna add in clouds, obviously I'd shoot really low and leave a lot of empty blue space, because I know I'm gonna go into post and add in clouds. Fortunately, God did that for me today, so I don't have to. I know you can remove things in post, but any like large pieces of debris that you know are gonna be difficult to get rid of in Photoshop, go ahead and get rid of them if you can. What I do is I turn the wheel slightly to an angle, and then I turn the camera to match the angle of the steering wheel. It's just more interesting to look at than straight on. What I'm doing right now is I'm hiding the sun just barely with the edge of the car. So I'm not shooting straight into the sun, but it's giving nice glare and color through the windows. Swapping lenses one more time. We're in what we call blue hour, basically right after the sun sets. Everything turns blue. Make sure you readjust your white balance. I am shooting 1/125 shutter, 2.8. Aperture again as low as the lens can go. And ISO is around 300. Because I still don't want to blow out the clouds. We got a lot of light in the clouds still. This is a 28-75, so this is my long range variable lens. And I'm shooting long range last because it's not my favorite of the three, so I wanted to make sure I got my good shots in with my 50, my go-to, and then the wide angle next. But I also can get more detail shots and just basically get a little creative and have fun, because I already know I got the shots that I want, and at this point, we're just going for bonus points. Once it's blue hour, you're pretty much out of time. That's when the Mario Kart music gets faster, and it's like if you don't already have the shot, you better get it, because you're done. You got the back, we shot it from the front, we shot it from all four angles all the way around. We did detail shots on the outside, we did detail shots on the inside. I did POV shots in the driver's seat, did POV in the back seat, shot the engine bay, pretty much covered everything that makes this car special. Keep in mind the location when you're choosing your car. Just like when you pick a model and you want to find a setting in an outfit that fits the model, you want to find a setting that fits your car. Now BMW, Euro spec, normally you would probably look for something that isn't so grungy and like industrial, but because we got a wide body kit and it's bagged, it fits the skyline and the city scene perfectly. And I hope you guys enjoyed the last sunset of our freedom until God knows when we're free from this quarantine. We're gonna keep up videos every Tuesday and Thursday. Make sure you like this video if it helped you. If you have any more questions on how to shoot a car, finding clients, pricing, what equipment to buy, whatever it is, drop it in a comment here so everybody can see. I answer all the comments every single time, and make sure you're subscribed. I'll catch you next week. Peace.
To you just to get through the night with you. Hope that's alright. Know you lie to me. It's